In 2011, Mark Anderson wrote a passage, "Software is eating the world." And many could not understand what exactly he meant by that. Today, various AI leaders claim that AI will eat software and executives. Again, many are baffled. Interestingly, when University of Cambridge ran an experiment, AI mostly outperformed human executives. But AI was not as good as humans at making decisions in unexpected black swan events. And that led to AI getting fired more quickly than humans. Since AI and its impact are evolving at such a rapid pace, Perceive Now and EthAum wanted to learn from the leaders themselves. This is Pankaj Gupta from EthAum Venture Partners, a zero BS revenue scaler and fund based in Singapore with approximately 100 startups in the portfolio. And we are extremely thrilled to host this panel to brainstorm whether CPG's next big idea will come from AI and Boardroom. We are honored to be joined by seasoned panelists who will be sharing their insights and enlighten us. To start with the introductions, I would request Shishir to introduce himself. Shishir, please.
Thanks, Pankaj. Happy to be here. My name is Shishir Saxena. I head the India operations and the Global Business Transformation Charter for Innove Digital based in Bangalore. Been around the block quite a while, spent a couple of years in Europe before moving to the States for about 8 years, made Bangalore my home 10 years back after the second child. And yeah, it's been a fun ride, worked with some of the leading CPG brands like Kimberly-Clark, Lululemon, Estee Lauder, Nestle Waters, amongst others. And it's been a fun ride to see the industry evolve. Look forward to the conversation.
Thanks a lot, Shishir. We really appreciate your presence, and I'm sure that we are going to learn quite a lot from you today. Now, I would request Imran to go next. Imran, please.
Sure. Hi. Thanks, Pankaj. So quick, about 25 years, still learning through because perhaps AI and things continue to keep us on the toes. So what's going to be new tomorrow, we don't know. So we need to get back. Been a practitioner now, though more in a business unit role. So lead retail, CPG, and manufacturing at C5I. Recently relocated, shifted backpack. I was doing some acquisition from Delhi to Dallas. So yes, the only commonality is the D in it. Everything else changed. Enjoy traveling. So done 45 plus markets across the globe, trying to hit 50 before I turn 50. But the challenge is now the big ones are done. And then you got to take visas in a very different manner. So still exploring that as part of, building whatever and doing work with the likes of, what Shishir talked about, some great organizations. So no, happy to be in here and learn a lot from, some of the fun people around.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Imran. Really, really appreciate your presence today. May I request Suvajit to go next?
Hi, my name is Suvajit Basu. I was recently the CIO of a multi-billion-dollar CPG company for close to 16 years. And before that, in the media advertising space. I'm coming to you from New Jersey, right outside New York City. And I'm delighted to be with this great panel and listen to what you're saying. By the way, I've been using AI quite a bit in the last I would say 6 months, and it has been transformational with the progress that has been made in the industry, and we can talk about that more.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Shivajit. We would love to learn from your experiments that you have been doing with AI. Appreciate that. Sanjeev, could you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, good morning, good evening. My name is Sanjeev Sherry. I lead the CPG as a vertical for Tech Mahindras. Working very closely with the customers, and across the CPG value chain. And I think some of the things we'll learn from you and then we'll share our experience, what the different brands are doing across, supply chain, across consumer engagements, and so on. I travel a lot, and that is something which brings a lot of, variety of experience from CPG standpoint. And, happy to get connected in this webinar.
Thank you, Sanjeev. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for joining us today. Now I would request Vinitha, CEO of Perceive Now and moderator of the panel, to introduce herself. Vinitha, please.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm Vinitha, founder and CEO of PerceiveNow.ai. My background is a PhD in electrical engineering, and I jumped right into the startup journey while I was doing my grad studies. It's been an exciting journey, but especially very close to CPG industry since from the very beginning, we had the chance to work with some giants like P&G and Henkel. And I'm extremely excited to be talking to the panel today, discussing the questions that we were extremely curious about in this AI-driven era, and really looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Vinitha. And I know you prepared some really interesting questions. Why don't we start getting insights from the panel? Please go ahead.
Absolutely. All right. I'll take it directly from the, this one question probably that everybody is talking about, which is the combination of the gut feeling versus the logical and algorithmic thinking that every PNL owner, director, and, CPG leader has been following so far. We've also known, some of the recent facts where we have seen, say, Pepsi versus Coke and the products they've launched, and the fiasco that happened where AI was a fantastic performer in one case and an absolute failure in the other. So probably the first question, I'll start with Sanjeev. No particular order, I see you first in my screen. And so what do you think about the differences between using your own gut feeling to make a lot of decisions? Are we moving towards an era where AI is going to actually start making the final decisions in itself and not just an assistant anymore?
Well, absolutely, you are absolutely right, especially in a CPG perspective, vis-a-vis other industries. CPG is always data-driven, right? You won't get the feedback from every consumer, so you have to collect the data, large amount of data, make the consumer insights out of that, and then convert into what kind of product you want to design, how you want to run the supply chain, and so forth. So it's always very, very data-driven, right? But now the things has been changed. We have massive data compared to what we used to have 10 years back. And more importantly, the time to react. The time to react is very, very short. The product innovations, typically in CPG, it was almost like 18 months before we launched the product. But now you can't wait. 18 months, the train itself will get changed, right? So what is really important is that someone who can understand the data, get the consumer insights, and take action. And that is where probably, AI is going to play, significant role. For a human to, grasp all the data and then take decision, it's almost impossible the way the data is coming. So I think I will go with that over a period of time. This is going to make a significant impact in terms of taking the decisions. And 2 or 3 use cases, I definitely, believe that that is going to make changes. One is the product innovations. The innovation is going to be very, very fast, and that is where AI is going to take decisions. Of course, we have seen use cases where you can drill down and get that information, why AI is giving a particular information or why AI is talking about a specific things. But at the end of the day, it needs to be automated every time. Nobody will want to go drill down and figure it out what AI is, arriving is particular decisions. So obviously, it is going to be automated. So yeah, I think that the product innovation is definitely one in CPG industries, which is going to be completely automated.
That's it's absolutely very, very insightful, especially even in my own experiences working with CPG industries. I've seen that from an R&D standpoint and in manufacturing standpoint, we just don't have the time to wait. So absolutely agree with that. Imran, what do you think about that? Do you have anything to add?
So I think couple of builds perhaps of what you mentioned and what Sanjeev. It's not about a left wing or a right wing, right? It's you got to be. If you look from a CPG value chain perspective, right from an R&D to production to manufacturing, and then you're all the way going back to the customer service as well, and then taking a loop back. Each of these will have a notion of the extent of where your algorithmic can start to play in much faster in terms of decision making. So if you take from an innovation and R&D pieces, right? Back in the days, you would have a focus group. People would sit together and think, "This is my gut. This is what the consumers would like because I have spoken with the consumers and I have visited the market." Then I would go to a basis, do my concept test, and then if that passes through, and then I'll say, okay, now let me take it to the market. Now, if I'm describing in a very loosely way of these three aspects within the R&D and innovation, the first aspect where you're doing focus groups can be algorithmized, wherein, hey, what should be created? Can I have an AI help me in saying, okay, what is the pool of where I can start to innovate? It takes into account, and you need to define it. So the construct of defining that will have to shift from being algorithmic to that then the focus group. So can that person define in saying, hey, when you're thinking of an innovation of, I mean, it came onto the plant-based food and others, can I take something from a different industry altogether? The human brain stops you in thinking that innovation in food can come from tech, but an algorithmic can think about it. So use that to broaden your horizon. But when you come towards the end of saying, okay, now I want to spend $1 billion behind this innovation, I do want to do a little bit more of these consumer tests to say, hey, will Vinitha like this product when I take it to the market? Will Sanjeev like this product when I take it to the market? So your initial aspects are becoming more algorithmic. Your end is still more on that gut, which is, hey, what the customer is saying at the end of the day, the consumer is saying. Now take a flip side on the manufacturing piece of it. Predictive maintenance, places where you want to say, hey, whether the machine will fail or not, how do I improve my supply chain? There, the gut should reduce significantly and think, hey, I'm going to drive 90% of it through algorithmic. Which product to push in first because of its expiry, yet at the same time when it was manufactured, first in, first out. Can all of that be managed? So supply chain should be significantly be driven through from a data perspective, and you have a magnitude of data coming in from sensory data to telemetry data, to pieces. So it's not right wing versus a left wing, but to say, hey, there will be certain functions within the businesses where I can. You talk about HR, within the CPG, operation analytics, people aren't using it. But at the same time, you need to be able to drive it because at such a fast-paced move, how do you enable people to come in and think about from a branding, etc. perspective? So again, bring in those combinations is what I would say. It can't be a single thumb rule that you can apply.
Yes, that's that's a lot of comprehensive details on every department, Imran. I really appreciate that very depthful insights. I would love to open the floor to everybody who's joined the call, who are not just our panelists. Is there anybody who would like to add anything? It's a quiet room.
Vinitha, I think Suvajit has a point.
Vinitha, this is Suvajit. If no one else is talking, I'd like to add a very important piece to what Imran said. And Imran has tremendous experience in this area in predictive maintenance and so on. But I'd like to just talk a little bit, Imran, about people analytics. I actually don't think we should use that. I think privacy is really important. And we should be really careful in how we head towards humanity and the use of data in human systems. Even during COVID, when we were taking temperatures and pictures of people, I opted not to use that technology because privacy and health are such important things, and the ethics around it is so important that we have to be very careful in how we apply technology and especially AI in that area.
That's definitely very, I know it's not always something that everybody agrees on, but you cannot speak anything against privacy. And that's a very, very important factor to maintain the confidentiality with every consumer that we work with and all the data related to that. So that's a fantastic point too, Suvajit. Thank you so much. And that actually reminds me, to be honest, Imran, you just mentioned, the 90-10 rule. And I've heard a lot of our customers that we work with and many mentors in CPG area mention, we think, of course, AI can automate a lot of things and it can keep, the efficiency growth as high as possible. But I don't think it can do the last 5%. I don't think it can do the last 2%, which definitely requires humans. And we, of course, have to agree with that in this particular stage where we don't yet have even completely automated operators or physical AI yet, although it's projected in the future. One of the major questions that comes to mind then is that, is AI going to be so significant that it's going to get literally a seat in the boardroom and actually make decisions with its own vote, or is it just going to act as a co-pilot for increasing efficiencies of every expert we have in the field right now? That's $1 million question, or maybe a bazillion-dollar question. Everybody's wondering about the extent to which AI would replace a lot of work that's being done currently. What is your take on that? I know Shishir would love to know from you what you think about this.
So I'll probably start by saying that the question is no longer if, right? So AI is already in the boardroom. It's a little bit of every decision being taken in every significant board which is tech savvy or at least a little bit more open to the idea. It's already there. Now the question of whether it will get a vote, it's got a pseudo vote through the people who are leveraging it.
Yes.
So then the counter argument could be, so are we all having the same hallucination while taking that decision using the same AI? Yeah, we can go into that direction. But I think the broader question here is, with AI becoming so pervasive in decision making at the top echelons in the organizations, the question is, what sort of checks and balances we have where the decisions do not get automatically taken just because quote unquote AI says so, right? So it's one of the inputs, maybe the most factually accurate input, but it cannot be the thing on which you hang your hat, so to say, right? You have to make sure that this is taken as one of the key voices while taking a decision. And I've seen some very interesting use cases where organizations, not just in the board, but in strategic conversations and meetings, almost use their version of AI as like a fact checker or a summarizer of things, right? So when you do comparative analysis, say you're trying to figure out store sales vis-a-vis the competition store sales, right? And you're trying to figure out, okay, we did this test in our market, what was our result vis-a-vis the competition? Earlier, you had to ask a person who would go fetch another person with an intern who will come back in 2 weeks with, yes, this is what the competition did, etc. Now you can simply ask the question and get the answer, because if the data is available somewhere, we have the mechanism to mine it, summarize it, and make that as part of a live conversation in the boardroom or the meeting room. So my take would be, it's already there in the boardroom. It should have a vote through a human, as part of the faculties of the human in the boardroom. But I'm not putting my money on having an independent vote for AI itself. It should remain a tool for the mankind, not somebody who can actually have a vote.
That's a very interesting point, especially when talking about how we leverage AI and who actually makes the final decision rather than making it the hero of everything and giving the complete reins in its hand. So that's really really insightful. I know Imran, you were talking about the 90-10 rule and how it's important. Do you like to add anything to this?
So I think the way Shishir described it, right? So to me, it is yes, very much in the boardroom, and it is perhaps a person to whom I know and I can predict the expense and the salary, etc. That guy will ask, right? Because there is a fixed GPU money that I'm spending, irrespective of the day or the night when I call him to work for me.
Right.
But the end decisioning making will still reside with an individual till the time your AI will bring in that compassion and things like that. And I still put a question mark. Responsible AI, to what Suvajit was saying, is table stakes. Everybody has to do that. The company has to invest and the ethics and those kind of pieces. And to give you an example, as you are asking me the question, I opened up two different AI bots, one on ChatGPT and the other on DeepSeek, and saying, "Hey, Vinitha, who's a founder with these many type of people, what is the expected question that she can ask me?" So why can't I have, in a similar manner, you can argue in saying that, hey, does AI have a bias or not? Yes, it does, because depending on how it has been codified, etc. But I would like to have an independent view and just have somebody sit next to me and saying, hey, this is a question. What's your point of view on that? Why not? To me, the question is, so hence, very much in the boardroom, decision making is still with me, but I have an additional viewpoint of getting by somebody who I typically believe doesn't have a bias, because he doesn't gain anything at this point of time by answering in a certain way. Hey, no, I need to answer it because I need this department to get a benefit, or I need this people to get a benefit, or something or the other is there. I mean, at the end of the day, we are all humans, right? There is something in the back of the head which is going on. AI helps in removing that bias at times and giving an alternate opportunity and options onto it.
That's fantastic, because one of the things that comes to my mind immediately is that, we talk about how much of a role AI is playing, where we're constantly seeing that even though their role is extremely heavy in many, many different areas, be it R&D, production, manufacturing, going all the way till marketing and sales, that part that you just mentioned, Imran, the emotional aspects of it, the empathy with which AI can actually act towards certain things. This might even be related to the privacy aspects that Suvajit was explaining. Do you think, just a follow-up to this discussion, do you think that if we are allowing AI and everything that we believe has probably the highest emotional capacity at this moment to take care of emotionally related aspects, say, for example, with branding, or looking at brand voice, or also looking at how we are messaging the product to customers, and a lot of those aspects which requires a very sensitive aspect to be considered, and also say improvise depending on the situation. Do you think it will definitely get to that point, but still with the help of a human, or are we, long way from there? Or do you believe that, it's going to play a big role from that perspective?
It's not far away.
Okay.
And again, to me, it's about testing these things as I live every day. And I use these tools quite a lot, just as my personal assistant. So I would ask a question and saying, now give me an answer to this as a decision in an empathetic tone.
Right.
And the decision changes. And the decision of the option that it provides me provides an aspect of saying, hey, this could be it if you think from a long-term perspective. So there are elements of it. Are we there yet? No, or perhaps not from a common man perspective. And that's the reason I say that each individual eventually has to become more of a consultant and a change management, because that 5%, that 2%, either you can own it or you can give it away. So it still resides within you and your hands. So not too far, but yeah, the 2%, make sure you continue to hold that with yourself.
And that's actually very exciting when we think it's not too far, and the world is changing so rapidly. One of the things that happen, where, say, with AI-generated advertisements, I know that Unilever and L'Oreal, a lot of these direct cosmetic brands and direct to consumers, they're heavily focused on that. So I know, Sanjeev, you've had experience working with so many different departments of, CPG companies. So do you think from purely a creative standpoint, and a standpoint where you can actually capture a user's attention even better than what a human expert in branding could do you see that happening widespread in CPG market leaders right now, or do you think that it's not too far away? What would be your take on that?
It's already there. We are working with a lot of brands. They have built all of their campaigns around understanding the demographic profile of the consumers, and then based on that, run the digital advertisement. Of course, there are privacy issues are definitely there, and I hope those will be resolved in one form or another form. But this is something which most of the brands are doing that, and they have figured it out how to ensure that they don't capture the specific information of a consumers, but in terms of demographic profile of the consumers, what is the emotions at that point of time, what they are liking, what they are not liking, what they are picking, what they are not picking. They are basically running the advertisements in the stores.
Okay. Now that's very fascinating. So I know there were a few of them that we know of using. So there are a lot more that is happening and continues to happen, is what you're saying. That is actually very fascinating. Okay, yeah. I mean, I think I would definitely love to know the answer for this from Suvajit, you as well. I know you were with Goya Foods for such a long time. Please tell us your opinion.
On advertising and
Yes.
branding and manufacturing?
Yeah.
So I will get into some meat and potato of that for a second, but because we're talking about branding and marketing, absolutely, that is one of the first areas, because you're dealing with so much data. Um, AI is the technology that is being used and can really help with the decision making, or connecting the right segment with the right customer, and what questions to be asked, etc. If you're promoting, that's an area everybody's using it for a few years now, right? So there is no issue there. But if you really look at the CPG business, and where data is being used, marketing, of course, is the key area. Customer touching areas are absolutely is being used. But inside the four walls of the enterprise, demand forecasting is a big area that AI is now taking the old data science and kind of making it more efficient and more accurate with the forecasting area. So that is a huge area where a lot of things have been done. The second thing is, so buying, purchasing, that's a big area. Making, we talked about predictive maintenance. That's a huge area, not only predictive maintenance, but manufacturing 4.0 is all about data science. It's all about dashboarding, taking feedback, and then giving it back to the shop floor in real time almost, right? So that's another very big area. In the warehouse, optimization of how your labor is flowing, how your products are laid out, and how you're going to optimize on a daily up to the minute level of what your tasks are going on. So that's huge productivity and cost savings over there. And then, of course, sales, which is related to marketing. We talked about that, optimizing sales, and then what the salesperson is going to talk to their customer about. That also is optimized, believe it or not. So this is the product mix that goes towards Sanjeev. This is what goes towards Pankaj. This is what goes towards Imran. This is what goes towards Shishir. And this is what goes to Vinitha, because all our food habits and all our consumption habits are different, right? So that's a very big area that has been worked on. And especially in sales, I see that as a huge opportunity, along with pricing for products. So pricing for products is very dependent on data and price elasticity. So based on the weather, based on supply chain, and supply chain is a huge issue right now, right? With tariffs and so on. So how do we price our products in the midst of this global change that is happening? Is the difference in being profitable and being out of business, believe it or not. So that is extremely important, that area. And I did some work on price elasticity on the different LLMs, and also on localized models, right? To tell you frankly, I was surprised how easily I could get some of the results from the LLMs. But then when I dug a little bit deeper, give me the price elasticity of a product at this location for the last 3 months. But it was hallucinating, and that was about a couple of months ago. So we have to be very careful how we are verifying the data that's being given. And by the way, I've been using AI in cybersecurity for the past 6 years.
Okay.
And that is a game changer in cybersecurity, because if you cannot keep your lights on,
Yeah.
if you cannot reduce your risk in the enterprise, you are just not going to function. So I think cybersecurity and risk reduction is a huge, huge application of AI. And that is really changing the whole AI landscape, even as we speak. So these are the big areas I see where it's not only the boardroom, but it's also on the shop floor. It's also with the customers. It's also inside the four walls, everywhere.
I mean, I don't even know what to say when we think about AI being everywhere. It's both exciting and terrifying at the same time. I guess a lot of us are continuously sharing that experience and emotion. And we were just talking about bias and hallucinations, and you spoke all the way from demand forecasting all the way to supply chain and everywhere in between. One of the questions that constantly keeps coming up is that, okay, we are training these AI models using our existing data. Of course, the data is limited, but whatever huge amounts of data that we have, we believe that to a large extent is ridden with human bias too. I mean, human beings in general are biased intentionally or unintentionally. And when we keep using the same set of data for fine tuning the models and creating the final answers and forecasting, do you think that we would get to a point where we can get rid of bias and hallucinations from that perspective? I mean, let me even keep bias separately. Hallucination is a different thing altogether. Do you think that's possible, or are there some extreme levels of controls and checks that we'll have to very, very proactively do when we're developing AI platforms to remove bias? And what do you think, company leaders and everybody operationally feeling about that?
So I'll take a shot at it. I'd love to hear from others also, right?
Yeah.
So see, I think the question on bias probably has multiple layers to it. So the one set of outcomes which are not what we want come from the quality of the data that we use, right? So the bias
Yes.
essentially comes from the training data or the data sets which were fed in to create the model or to train the model in the first place. The other is what are the incremental improvements to the model itself. So a lot of AI models are using an adversarial approach where it keeps challenging the outcomes through another competing way of doing the problem, and based on human in the loop, which we call as a human interaction, which says one is better than the other, it learns to discard the ones which are having the negative inputs to it, right? So you solve that problem at multiple layers. So a no-brainer obviously is domain data encapsulation, trying to limit what you're working off within a particular set, training your AI on what you exactly needed to be solving. So if you're trying to do something around price elasticity, then probably airline fares in Caribbean may not be a relevant data set for them, right? And stuff like that. So I know I kind of stretched it too far, but the point is you need to narrow down what your AI is feeding off for it to be sharper and narrower in the field. And I think, like we talked about it in different contexts, it cannot be the source of your decision making, right? So it has to be a source of decision making.
Right.
So you leverage it, you take it, but you add a weight to it, just like you would do for any critical decision you take in personal life or professional, whatever, right? So as long as we understand that it is a source of decision, the problem that we see sometimes is when organizations get excited and try to create closed loop systems where decisions then lead to other decisions. It's like, AI deciding for it, then something else happens, and then something else happens where there is no opportunity for the system to autocorrect or to kind of figure out that there was an error introduced in one phase of the value chain, which now has gone through the entire chain and kind of created a completely unintentional outcome. So the ability to intervene, have a little bit of a timeout of sorts before it starts having another set of decisions being taken on that first pretext is really, really important. But bias will always be there as long as humans are developing these models, even if the first machine was developed by a human. So I think the idea is to have your balance, checks and balances put in place versus assuming that you'll ever have a foolproof, unbiased model. We always advise our clients to have a human in the loop plus a domain data encapsulation and a combination of adversarial challenger kind of approaches where the models are tested against a competing approach to give out the best outcome.
Yeah, that's a truly intriguing thought, having the entire erroneous data going throughout the value chain all the way till the end. And that's truly terrifying, but the checks and balances have to make sure that they're taken care of. And that could even be a human at the end of the day. It doesn't have to be even the model doing that. And we've seen a lot of different AI agents and operators which are now beginning to execute. So, be it from a bias standpoint or from an at an execution level, if you are taking this whole aspect into picture, there are many different behavioral patterns that it is going to follow, which human beings have done historically because that is the data that it's been trained on. What do you think about that, Imran? Do you have specific examples where you've seen this type of a bias-based behavior affecting anything that you have come across personally? Or I would definitely love to know your thoughts on that.
See, the bias-based decision making, obviously, because at the end of the day, it's feeding into what you have put together. But to Shishir's point, right, we are also in the way some of these models are being set up now and continue to develop is to be able to challenge one another. Unlike when you take from a human decision perspective, so if I'm making my own decision, I'm going and reflecting back on all of my past, but my decision gets only challenged by Vinitha when I'm sitting with her across. Some of these models, the way they've been put together and the way they've been developed further on, is before the resultant comes to me, it's already being challenged by the two other sets of models. And that's what will really drive the next level of efficacy and enhancement of those models, because now they are being challenged by two other computer systems itself before it comes to the human. And that to me becomes the interesting point, and to your piece, which is an equally terrifying piece, because they've already dabbled with somebody posing, saying, "Hey, I don't agree with you, so I'm trying to answer it." So now, by the time it's coming to to an individual or to a human, you've already dabbled with the NAS and knows on that particular decision making perspective. So my take still is, continue to hold that 2% of it, because the day you lose that 2% of it, God help us then. But till then, I think we have our jobs fairly secured.
Yes. I think if we, like to your point, if we lose the 2%, then everybody's going to wonder why are we existing after that, right?
Exactly. No, and there are ways people are putting it together. You spoke about marketing, etc. To branding pieces. One of the pieces I really liked about is, at the end of the day, when we get convinced is because that something appeals to me as an individual. Whether or not it appeals to a larger set is indifferent. And I think Cadbury did that very phenomenally in India when they said, "Hey, Shah Rukh Khan will come and do an ad for your small shop, which perhaps has a DNA from a customer perspective of not more than 200 people. That's it." So at a 200 people level customer DNA, or the people that's going to come up, you are personalizing the ad of a celebrity who's coming in. Why will you not use it and showcase it at large? So when you see the amplifying effect is far more. And those are the places where you'll see the human or the common man will start to see the value of AI and then start to use it. So yeah.
I don't think anybody here would want it to be any other ways, Imran. So yes, totally agreed with that. I want to switch this up a little bit. So we've spoken about what AI can do so far and what the capabilities that we are forecasting in the future. I know, Sanjeev, you work with so many different industries within CPG. CPG is a big ocean of many different industries that fall underneath that. What do you think? Since I think in my experience, I mean, although we've had AI for decades now, I think after OpenAI, everybody's fascination towards generative AI almost literally spiked 1,000 times more. And since then, we've had so many, be it startups or even companies, working on so many different kinds of AI applications. What do you think today, that as of today, from everything that you've heard, what are the things that where companies claim it's the biggest AI powered aspect that we're claiming to do, but you don't actually believe that?
It's a tricky question. See, the way we look the CPG as an industry is, looking, one is what kind of a segments, and then second is what is the value chains. I think that the biggest change which we have seen, and biggest impact which we have seen, is that in the fashion and lifestyles.
Okay.
And especially on the consumers' sides, right? A lot of insight is required. You know that, right? The return is too high. So it is not so easy to sell fashion and lifestyles through e-commerce channels. So I think the consumer insights part, especially, we have seen that a lot of things has gone in the fashion and lifestyles, and a lot of work still needs to be done. And then the second biggest is the food and beverages, which we are seeing that the impact on that. But there are other segments, likes of consumer healthcare, likes of personal cares, likes of home and furniture. Still, a lot of work yet to be done. But my take is that fashion and lifestyle, where most of the work will be done.
Okay, yeah, no, that's very interesting, and would love to know everybody's thought, all the panelists' thoughts on this. So please, Suvajit, what is your opinion on this?
Wherever you have the thought of AI might be hallucinating, you want to stay away from that. I also think a lot of problems can be effectively solved with data science. And data science is more exact than AI a lot of times, the prediction models. So stay with data science where you can, augment with with AI if needed. So be careful how you do the models, how you do the forecast, because errors could be more of an adverse effect a lot of times. If your forecast is off and you don't know if the system hallucinated, you're better off going with an exact science like data science or the set of data you have, etc. So I would warn against that as the big areas.
Okay, yeah, that's
I'll just add, Vinitha, that if you look at it, a lot of the way in which AI is being approached across the board, not just in this industry, is we have a certain way of doing things over the years. We have figured out that if you want to do planogramming, you do it this way. If you want to do assortment planning, these are the X number of steps you get towards the outcome. And then we figure out how can we leverage any new thing, whether it's data science or AI, to make those steps faster, better, more accurate, cheaper, etc. Right? I think what AI is, despite all the stuff we still have to fix in it, it allows us to challenge the first principles of whether you need those 4 steps to get to that outcome, right? So it's not about shrinking the way things have been done or supercharging them. It's about trying to find a different path to the outcome itself. So and I go back to your first question about algorithmic thinking versus gut feeling. Now, at the heart of it, what is gut feeling? It's intuition, which is based on stuff you don't realize but you know it. It doesn't come from the air. It's basically an expert just knows it, and that just knows comes from fact that the guy or the girl has been solving that problem in different contexts so many number of times that now you can casually call it gut feeling, but that's what experience is. That's what context is. I think for AI, we have to appreciate that while, yes, it can make how we do things better, we all need to figure out if there is a completely different path to the end outcome, which is a harder thing because it's about trying to fire up neurons and burn the connections in our mind the way they have always been built. You do not need to do these 5 things to get to that outcome. Maybe I was reading something about a research scientist who was working on protein folding, and they just figured out that they used AI to not just do what the individual and his team did in 2 years in 2 hours, but they also showed multiple other application of the same protein folding activity. And I was first pissed off that, I'm a researcher with double PhDs, no offense to you, Vinitha, right? And then here is an AI which is doing my job in 2 hours. But now I have to be humble enough to accept the fact that, hey, by the way, what I'm doing, that research can be applied to many other things, which I was so narrow in my approach that I never even saw it. So it's a little bit of that also, which is going to be very humbling for a lot of experts, right? And I think my kids are going to have the last laugh when it comes to, whether they'll have it better or we had it better. I hope
That's
so.
I mean, I cannot absolutely heard this many times, from especially PhD scientists when we were working on multiple aspects before Gen AI. There's a certain thought process that there are very, very, very narrow specialized aspects that nobody can replicate. And that was true up until 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And the thought of having all of that now becoming obsolete overnight, or the possibility of that even has definitely terrified a lot of people. But I think from the beginning, we've all resounded very well with the fact that it's the people who don't know how to use AI who's going to be left behind, and it's not the other way around. So I think everybody's holding on to that hope at this point. But yes, thank you so much for that perspective, Shishi. Imran, please tell me how.
Anything
Yeah.
which has, I mean, the way for me to differentiate or you know put a stick in there is saying anything that has a moral decision making,
Mm-hmm.
AI cannot do that.
Right.
If it's non-moral, bring the AI to the party, and you may leverage it to make the decision for you on your behalf, or you may not.
Mm-hmm.
But it can do to a significant aspect. But anything that has a moral,
Right.
that's where AI is perhaps far, far behind. And that becomes an easy for us as humans, or as me as a practitioner, to say, hey, can I bring the whole zeros and one into this place? Where is it that AI cannot come in? That's a zero, and that's anything that has to do with moral decision making. Yeah.
And that's actually very true. And one of the things I actually remember the first time I used ChatGPT, what was going on in my head was, okay, yes, it's giving me a lot of great answers, and especially they didn't have the most updated data at the time. There was no web search. But one of the things that truly fascinated me was how forgiving, as a humankind, all of us were for the million different hallucinations that it was doing. And we still are, for that matter. We still marvel at what it can do, and very, very forgiving towards all the absolutely idiotic hallucinations or not being updated, and all of those are happening. But do you think when it specifically comes to CPG industry, where there is the highest amount of direct to consumer interaction and contact, this level of forgiveness is ever going to continue, or is there just more tolerance towards that now?
Is it? Don't you think so? I mean, that there is, as we are engaging more with them in terms of our daily lives of consuming products and using it, it does. I mean, to me, I would say it has a point of view in terms of driving it and building it up. And if you think of it, and to me, the easiest way is how was I buying my groceries earlier
Yes.
versus now, and are there hallucinating aspects? Are there aspects which AI is forgets and then brings it back? And you can see the evolution of the change part of it. So
Yeah.
that's how I would
All
put
right.
it out. I mean, yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Yes, I think we're almost at time, and probably have one final question. I would love to know the thoughts from everybody. Specific to the CPG industry, where we have seen such rapid growth by being able to use AI, as we all just discuss in every single department, starting with innovation and research, all the way till marketing and branding and sales. Do you think that there is specifically 2 or 3 different industries, sub-industries under CPG that you think is going to be transformed much, much faster? Would that be fashion and textiles like we discussed, or would that be with anything related to pharmaceuticals and medical industry? Do you think there are, or do you see patterns where this is going to have the highest impact? And yeah, Sanjeev, please start by giving your opinion, please.
Absolutely. So the way we look into the CPG, the two part, the manufacturing and then the consumers' insights, we still believe that the manufacturing of CPG is not as complex as typically the other manufacturing industries out there. And in that sense, it is behind. It's far behind CPG compared to other industries, but it is picking up. But what the impact which we have seen is most on the consumer side, because that is where the huge data is there. That is where the information which is not available so easily, and that is what the people are looking for. I think on the consumer sides, it will be more, way to be used, but manufacturing side is also picking it up.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yes.
My take would be anything which has got a degree of personalization, right, which requires the product either to be discovered, consumed in a manner which is very personalized, has a very high degree of being disrupted, because that degree of personalization to the segment of one is now possible with AI at scale, which was not being done earlier. As long as you are a mass market product which you're carrying, catering to a larger consumer segment, it's still, yeah, you can disrupt parts of the value chain. You can model out the lift in a particular area, etc., or model out the trade promotions, etc. Those kind of things you can do that, but truly personalized. So I would say skincare, health, nutrition, some of those things which allow you to create a very individual centric plan, right, which is truly mine, right? And I get the impression that it's truly mine for a certain set of reasons. Because of it, I think that is definitely set to take off completely, and that is also a very high margin game.
Yeah, that's a fantastic I think a point of view, especially when we've not been able to do that in mass so far, and we'll never probably be able to without AI. Probably one follow-up question I have for that is, do we see AI, of course, making a huge splash within internal processes where, large teams which were using, say redundant traditional methods are now switching to AI? Is that impact starting internally and then ending externally, or is it the other way around, starting externally and would take a longer time to impact internally?
We have an executive with us, Mr. Suvajit. I think he will answer that for us. He's led that function internally. He would know what he saw in his tenure,
Yes.
I guess.
I think, Shishir, you bring up some good points, especially the customized healthcare part, customized cosmetics, customized personal care, I would say, and healthcare. I think there is tremendous opportunity there for personalization at the person level, right? So that's huge. Within the four walls, I think marketing is the leader because they have been using consumer data for so long, right? They live and die by that. The second is if you're running efficient CPG organization, you have to look at optimization, where that kind of technology can be used anywhere from demand planning to manufacturing floor to warehouse floor, etc. So efficiency is the key over there. So that is already being used. Now, the other part of your question is, has it passed us? No, I think, to be frank with you, other than the marketing and the consumer part of CPG, a lot of the back office, etc., is actually lagging, right? So if you look at the food supply chain from agriculture onwards, you're not going to digitize food. You're not going to digitize healthcare. So I don't think any disruption is going to happen to your food or to your healthcare for the next 10 years. They will just keep on slowly chugging along, moving along. So there is no worry there. I don't think that is an issue, but when it's consumer facing, yes, you got to be at the forefront and keep up with it, whether it's advertising, whether it's marketing, etc. So look at it two different ways. It's not just, it's a huge industry. You have to look at it two different ways. And if you really look at the supply chain from the farmer to your table, in between there is grocery, there is wholesale, etc. That's multi-trillion dollar industries, trillion dollar, multi-trillion dollar industries. You are not going to make wholesale changes to a multi-trillion dollar supply chain just boom, just like that. It will take time.
Correct. Yes, totally agreed. Yes. Yeah, Imran, please tell
Yeah,
us what you think.
but I think there's going to be a fair enough Suvajit, because that's exactly the area where the disruptions haven't happened.
Yeah.
And the world population isn't growing at fast. I mean, it used to be at about 1.5 about in the early 2020s. Right now, it's close at 0.75. So if it's not growing as fast and consumers are not eating so much, and the companies still want shareholder value to go up, everything will boil down to it. Ultimately, hey, can I produce at a much cheaper cost? And hence, for that efficiency, I've done the consumer understanding significantly. All these other functions are which are lagging and needs that disruption truly in that efficiency aspect part of it. So to me, is that's where the big bucks are lying in there. Yes, more thinking needs to be done, because everybody has commoditized in terms of how to do an efficiency on that marketing front, on that personalization front. But the back channel, all the way to the farmers, that hasn't been disrupted to the extent that it needs to, and that's where the big money will start flowing in. Because either I was producing, there were more kids happening, and saying, fine, I can still produce it and people will be eating more. They aren't eating more biscuits, they aren't eating more chips. So at the end of the day, I need to continuously see how I can be more efficient in making shareholder value more. So ultimately, it's going to go back to that vicious circle. But yes, that's the reality.
Hey, yes, that's amazing. Thank you so much. That was, I guess we already now discussed a lot of million-dollar questions, and probably one of the most thought-provoking aspects here as well. So I think I believe at the end of the day, we have a lot of opportunities staring at us, but at the same time, there's too many questions that are yet to be answered. And especially with CPG, what we've seen is that it's even though it's a probably almost all industries like healthcare, another example, is probably the last one to adopt something because they have such low tolerance when it comes to direct consumer facing aspects, and you don't get a second chance. I believe CPG is one of those industries where we don't always get too many second chances, and that in itself sort of tailors how AI is used and how much tolerance we have towards hallucinations, biases, innovation, speed, everything that goes back into it. So yes, I guess that's probably, I think, is one of the final takeaways that we can take from here. And Pankaj, do you think we should open the floor to others, or
I
the
would love to
audience
get,
has been quiet? Yeah.
definitely, I would love to get feedback, insights from others as well. Anybody wants to make
Can I go ahead? My name is Mahinder Chugh.
Please.
Okay. Very, very interesting discussion. I kind of go back to a fundamental question in my mind, and I like to throw it open to everybody. There is that proverbial saying that innovation is the mother of invention. Necessity is the mother of invention. And I would like to correct that to say it is not just necessity, the mother of invention, but it is the mother of sustainable invention. Under the umbrella of AI, there is so much. AI is a kind of major path breaker, major disruptor. But underneath AI, we see so many small aspects of innovation that are happening. And I think all of you touched that very well. Some happening in the supply chain, some happening underneath the, shall we say, the consumer facing products and apps. But wherever there is a necessity, and you can see there are so many inventions that have happened, are lying there in the lab which are not being used, patents being filed which are not being used. But as long as we keep one goal in mind, wherever there is a necessity, which means a product or a service which is a must have rather than a good to have, I think that innovation will sustain and will grow and become very, very valuable.
That is a very interesting thought. Thank you so much, Mahinder. It was, I know, I've heard a lot of aspects from you before, specifically related to consumer market, and yeah, that's definitely a very interesting point. But yes, anybody else?
Please feel free to unmute yourself. Okay, I think again it has been fantastic conversation so far. Thanks, Sanjeev, Imran, Suvajit, and Shishir for the really insightful conversation. And now it's time to transition. So this was the thought leadership panel, and we move on to the roast session now. What is roast session? We love to host roast session with the founders in our portfolio because we believe that founders are not able to get real, brutal, honest feedback from the industry leaders, from their potential customers and VCs, and because everybody wants to sugarcoat the feedback, right? And this is where we believe that founders should be able to get a brutal, honest feedback from the industry leaders, learn from this feedback, and improve their overall messaging, their go-to-market strategy, their solution, their differentiation, and things of that nature. And that's why we would love to take this opportunity. I would request Vinitha to do a quick presentation on Perceive Now, and take the feedback, take questions from the leaders. And again, as I requested earlier, because this is a roast session, please do not hold back. Do not hesitate. Give as much feedback as possible. And also, Vinitha is an extremely courageous girl because she's doing this on a live stream, right? So that's a rather interesting aspect about it. Vinitha, please.
Yes, thank you, Pankaj. Yes, this is my first time getting roasted, but definitely something I'm really looking forward to. I'll share a very short 4 to 5 minute presentation about what we do at Perceive Now, and then go from there for your feedback. Let me share my screen. No. Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Okay. Yes. Okay, yes, reintroducing myself, founder and CEO of PerceiveNow.ai. And we built a huge set of our proprietary AI agents specifically focused on answering the burning questions that P&L owners have, like yourselves have within CPG industries and a lot of other industries as well. So as we know, be it an enterprise or an investing firm, every P&L owner is ridden with a lot of different business and technical questions on an everyday basis, and they needed the answer to this yesterday. Of course, fantastic platforms like GPT, a single LLM-based platforms, Perplexity, and a lot of these AI platforms have made their lives very easy to get these answers. But there is always a very specific question that very similar to what the director of design in P&G came to us and said, there are a lot of these insights that I get, but many of them are irrelevant. We spoke about hallucination and biases right now, and I need the answer to my question tailored to specific of my objective, and I still don't know what to do about that. So that's really where, platform like PerceiveNow comes into picture, where we help P&L owners in very simple 3 simple steps. Our proprietary AI agents collect the objectives, short-term and long-term goals, and very specifically relevant information in, say, like tens, maybe not hundreds of different documents that you might have, and work on creating a fantastic world-class scope of work. Followed by that, the AI agents also extract the useful insights from billions of different market, patent, and technology data points and create the final set of summarization. Now, we've all seen till this step. I think ChatGPT can do that, Perplexity can do that. So what's really different here is that beyond this point, we have developed our multi-LLM approach where after the summarization aspect, there is a thought process that is involved in being able to look at these summarized insights and directly answer the question that the panel owner came with to start. So this is not a random generic insight that you're ever going to get similar to any other platform. Similar to this process, and by following this process just within P&G, we were able to cut down their 6 months of discovery time to just 5 short days. And we also did this almost for 4 times cheaper price. And there is $1 million question. What is different? Why can't OpenAI do this? What are the different aspects that we are focusing on? At the end of the day, when we look at, say, every single model as a single expert musicians that's capable of performing fantastic solos, what we are capable of doing is combining the strengths of all of these different models and create a superior set of insights by focusing on what each model's strategic thinking process and the final outcome and strategic aspects can be presented with. So the final insights are nothing like what anybody's ever able to see in a normal summarization platform, which in itself is new to a lot of us, but it's super specific and absolutely has nothing to do with generic LLMs. One such example is with patents, for example. I don't think any platforms as of today is capable of answering a patent-related question very objectively, accurately, and without hallucinating. This is one aspect that we have already cracked the code on, and extremely simple aspects able to answer the question with zero hallucination and 100% accuracy. We, of course, have global data coverage. We have about 60 to 70% of public data and remaining of them proprietary data, but cover market, venture capital, technology, scholarly publications, consumer insights, and pretty much many, many different aspects involved. These are just some of the popular use cases, be it with corporate development, R&D, patent and legal, marketing, and operations, starting with the innovation, which is the start of the pipeline, till the launch, which involves branding and consumer analysis. We take care of all of these with many different specific agents we have. Our customers are, of course, P&L owners and enterprises. And this number is actually a little bit shocking to me when I was trying to validate this too, that just on secondary research last year, the global spending was $140 billion. And in the US, it was about $48 billion. And these are all P&L owners, directors, and VPs trying to answer the $1 million question every single day that will make or break their next set of decisions. But we also work with a lot of investors, especially from M&A venture capital standpoint, where we're able to give them the insights from commercial due diligence for identifying the next unicorn. We have a very unique positioning in the market. We don't compete with foundational model builders. We also don't compete with the data platform providers. We look at them as our channel partners because we've developed our own proprietary orchestration algorithm, which combines the strengths of different models and hence provides the most superior insights in the end. This process absolutely allows every single user to completely skip the status quo with or without an AI platform and makes the process 90% cheaper and 4 times faster. We have a very simple SaaS-based subscription model, although we evolve every single day depending on many different data points that we learn from different enterprises. We have so far worked with large enterprises in CPG like P&G, Henkel, Kroger, and we've seen the general theme with all of them is that very, very interestingly and surprisingly, they've used our platform in every part of the product lifecycle, starting with innovation till the branding and consumer analysis. And that is one of the very important aspects that makes us very proud of the platform itself. This is our team. My background, as I already spoke, was my PhD in electrical engineering, which is where I worked on the platform in itself. More than talking about the technical product and business development expertise of our founding team, and we've been working together since about 4 years now. I would say the best superpower we have is resilience, because even though we were an AI platform, we know we had to very quickly adapt and improvise ourselves the moment OpenAI came into picture and generative AI came into picture. That ability to shape shift ourselves very, very quickly has been our biggest strength. And of course, adding to that, some of our fantastic advisors who have continuously been a pillar of strength for us too. From funding standpoint, very quickly, we closed our pre-seed funding beginning of last year with a combo of Silicon Valley and Midwest investors. We're headquartered in San Francisco and currently have our $1.5 million active raise. And of course, the major aspect we will be using that is to focus on customer acquisition and business development. But at the end of the day, be it the focus on the branding and sales and development or the product aspect, one thing very clear for us is that we have a very unique positioning, being able to provide the last 10 miles of stretch when it comes to answering the questions P&L owners have. So yes, that is the end of my presentation, and I'll stop here.
Thanks a lot, Vinitha, for the quick presentation. Let's take questions.
Vinitha, just a appreciation question, just to understand what you guys are trying to solve for in the market, right? So if I am an Henkel or a P&G and I don't leverage your organization, what would be my typical flow be to get what you give me? How do I do it today?
Yes. So I'll just go back to the status quo very quickly. And this is with the AI platforms that exist, which includes ChatGPT and Perplexity and all the research platforms. So usually start with a very specific use case. We worked with companies. They had a one-of-a-kind example where they wanted to understand the sustainability aspects. They wanted to know what are the brand recognition tasks that they will have to do in order to create a better presence within Gen Z for sustainable green products they have. This is a very simple question on the surface, or when you look at it superficially. When a P&L owner has a question like this, it actually starts a chain reaction. The first thing they do is that they ask their analyst team to identify all of the consumer forecasting and demand forecasting for their existing Gen Z demographic. Then they follow that by adding external insights on what is the sentimental analysis of all the existing consumers today from a Gen Z standpoint. What are the market reports telling me? What are the specific technology reports telling me from technology adoption? Everything put together. This process usually takes between 4 to 8 weeks. And then followed by that, they have the entire presentation, report, graphics, everything that they have to create with the help of AI platforms and put together a final report, say that's anywhere between 30 to 60 pages, and circulate that within the stakeholder team. This is the genuine process they're following right now from step 1 to step 7. That is absolutely where Perceive Now comes into picture, which is literally anywhere between 2 to 3 days of time in being able to collect these objectives and provide a full length 30 to 40 page report, plus the one pager, plus the presentation, plus stunning graphics that you can use internally to process this and take the next decision. That is where the biggest leap happens by using Perceive Now.
Okay.
Couple of questions, Vinitha, and so first from the point that Shishir made. So now, the time that you're taking, obviously, you're using, perhaps better advanced models, etc., part of it. But is that a point in time? And one second, is the data is it all that you have subscription to, or are you being able to utilize what the clients have in a structured and in an unstructured manner, which is there? So that's the first set, and then I have two other questions. But yeah, if you would like to.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Purely from a data perspective, right? I mean, I'll divide this broadly into 3 categories: market, technology, and patents. When it comes to technology and patents, I guess we have a lot of our proprietary data sets. Patents are originally public, of course, but we have all of them, stored on our own backend for processing purposes. And we also tune the models with these patents data and technology, scholarly publications data, etc. And we cover about 85% of coverage when it comes to scholarly publications. There are, of course, some very low impact factor ones. There are things that are really of not very significant aspects, so we don't focus on that data. Market data is easily a combo of our real-time web search information that happens on the spot while the search is happening, plus the proprietary data sets that we actually have partnerships with. For example, we do have partnerships with companies that are just focusing on M&A data, just focusing on the financials data of all the large organizations, competitive landscape. Think about any data that you can get from Crunchbase plus PitchBook, etc. We have our own internal process that we use to be able to extract all of those data plus the partnership. So it definitely acts in partnership for some of the data, and for the others where we have them as our own proprietary data sets.
And this is predominantly right now English, or are you looking at or have the ability to do it like, through the market, which I'm sure everybody has already thrown to you, which is China?
I guess right now, still English. I know when DeepSeek came, we definitely dabbled the idea of being able to use DeepSeek models. Honestly, Imran, I would someday come and ask you, you tell me, please, is it going to be controversial to use something like that? We still don't have the answer to that, and we're constantly adapting to what the market's telling us. But yes, predominantly English, has been English for the last 4 years since we started. So we definitely have a more supremacy with English.
Got it. Now, from a GTM perspective, what has been your, I think there was a slide, right, where you're saying you're already working with Henkel and P&G. With them, is it more at a POC level? What is your renewal rate? What is your retention rates? And is it in the third piece of the same aspect from a scalability? Yes, you've gone into P&G and perhaps you're doing it for an M&A part of it, but have you been able to scale it up at 6 different use cases within the same organization, or are you just with one?
That is a fantastic question. I think, so we actually started working with P&G through one of our channel partners. I believe the channel partner is already also present here in our panel. And yes, we also went into the market only about 6 to 7 months ago. And P&G, I think between me and our channel partner, we really, really big credits to being able to get in front of the P&L owner through somebody who's already had the connection. That in itself made a very, very big difference. But at the end of the day, what happened is that once we went into the department, we of course, had introductions that's coming from that department to the others, and sort of percolated, started percolating. And we ended our, the conversation with the first department by saying, we would love your introductions, and they were very, very happy to do that just by the quality of work that we've already done with them. So I think that's really where it made a difference. But I will say though, enterprise sales cycle has been the biggest roadblock for us. If somebody asked me today, what's stopping you from scaling? It's not easy convincing, first of all, accessing P&L owners, and then followed by that convincing them. And with P&G, that was our route. And even with Henkel, we had 2 different channel partners who were extremely helpful in helping us get introductions with them, who's had past relationships, which has worked so great. But from a scaling standpoint, that is one aspect that we're continuously looking to shape and refine and make it as quick and as efficient as possible. But yes, we definitely started with one department and started getting introductions to the others and continue to pursue the same as well.
So you've got the introductions, but I mean, if you just take P&G, which is a great example, or Henkel or Kroger, either of these 3, apart from an introduction, have you expanded in the other departments, or is it still in a
yes, we have. So we started with, say, like R&D, and then we moved on to the patenting compliance department. Then we moved into the marketing and sales. And we also had a separate, I think this is true for different companies, but within P&G, I think they work based on departments too. There's oral care separately. We have departments separately. So it really came down to who we get introductions to. And again, the channel partners we had, of course, had a lot of, strong relationships, which helped us get in front of them too. But yes, we definitely are working right now with other departments as well.
Okay. The last piece, I think you partly answered the way I'm hearing it, but then from your go-to-market perspective, you're not directly going with the enterprise. You are going independent and with the channel partner.
Yeah, we
And
are
is
independent. Yes.
okay.
We are independent and with channel partners. I think channel partners has been, as a startup, been one of the fastest and easiest way to get in front of the customer personas we have, but absolutely going direct and having direct introductions being made now as well. Yes.
Got it. And has the
Vinitha, give me
cost
an
of
example of
Yeah.
your channel partner.
Yes.
What is the channel and your example of a channel partner?
Yes, I'll actually give you a few different ones. So one of them, they're a combo of a consulting firm who's focusing on sustainability related initiatives, and also worked on aspects that is super related to operationals and supply chain optimization, etc. Now they come into picture from an execution standpoint. They come into picture from a standpoint of, okay, we are able to do this for you. But the beginning or the starting initial point of that pipeline is usually the insights. Why we need to do this? What are we doing that is going to make this biggest change? So that part is where we are able to complement, and that becomes a direct complementary effect.
So consulting is your channel partner one,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Who else?
Oh, marketing firms. We partnered with marketing firms who help in execution again. So if I have to put this in one bucket, I would say channel partners are firms which are helping in executing the insights that we are extracting. And that's true for even law firms. We have law firms who are our patenting law firms and attorneys who are our channel partners. They cannot operate without us. And even though we can operate without them, it does not close the loop. It's a much more effective aspect for us to close the execution part as well, depending on the insights we come into that we provide. But we've also seen that, there's a lot of different appetite now. The appetite with even within the companies that we've worked with already in the past and now today, the customers who asked us, I would definitely love to have a human in loop right now, validating all the insights you're giving me, is no longer interested in that. They're saying, okay, I think we trust the insights that's coming out of your platform directly. I don't want the human in loop element at all. Just give it to me straight within like 2 hours or 3 hours. So the rapid adoption aspects is making this little bit easier for us to percolate directly and not having to deal with execution aspect. But the one of the most wonderful parts for us is that we are the first phase. They cannot operate without the first phase, and that starts with us, and that means the dependency is extremely high on us. So that's really been a very important factor.
Can you tell me who your competition is?
Yes.
Or who you perceive as the competition?
Absolutely. So I think the first competition, just purely speaking from a perspective standpoint, is, why do I need to use you? Why are you different than ChatGPT? Why are you different than existing AI research platforms? What will you do different for me? The moment we're able to do a sample report for these customers and crack the code there, they're always given us 100% yes. But that initial hesitation is a very important, and they are, of course, at the end of the day, a big market presence. The second competition is status quo. We've tried working with a lot of different type of user personas, and we've seen the hesitation with certain personas are much higher when it comes to relying on an AI platform for insights, what's out there, what's not out there, etc. But their current process, let's just say, the current process has a certain flow from step 1 to step 10. If we are not able to integrate ourselves as the step 5, replacing or shrinking the step 3 to 7 as step 2, I don't think we'll have a very good adoption rate. So being able to do these two things and the current status quo process is definitely a very big competition for us. And honestly, Suvajit, the last part there is that we just cannot afford to be even 1% lesser than the current status quo because they are nitpicking. If the current status quo is working in certain aspects, the matter of fact is, from a bias standpoint, hallucination standpoint, insight standpoint, explainability standpoint, all of those aspects, we have to be 100% right there. And that was a very important lesson we learned across the time as well.
Vinitha, one question is around what is your commercial model? Because you are primarily working with the P&L owner, right? So P&L owner needs business outcome for whatever they're investing. So do you have any skin in the game in your commercial models?
Yes. So honestly, we've seen, I'll actually give a very interesting story for this, like a very short story. We've done, in the very initial phases, like 2.5 years ago, we've had a lot of our customers said, we're going to pay you per report. And we were fine with that. We wanted to test the waters. We wanted the feedback there. And funny enough, I have sold the exact same report for $400 to one customer and to $4,000 to another customer. That was a very important part that we had to learn from a perceived value. When I'm able to answer a P&L owner's burning question very, very effectively at that particular time and moment, the value for the data is humongous. But when I go and provide the same set of data, but at a not so important time, I'm not willing to pay you that much. So we took a lot of effort to convert all of the per report and per project pricing, which is usually true for smaller companies like startups, SMBs, absolutely agreed, to an actual subscription model where we want to open up the entire suite of 30 to, we're expanding the agents to 30 to 40 different agents we have, and have a fixed pricing across the departments, across every single department within the enterprise, etc. That is the model now we are at, and would love to continue working on that. But that's been a journey, I would say. Yeah.
The 4,000 per report, per dollar per report model. That's
no. So no. So Suvajit, I said we've sold a single report for 4,000, but now we have
dollar per report.
Correct.
So what is the model now you're after?
Now we're doing 3 different tiers of SaaS, the subscription model, and we start with for the very low startups aspect and small, very, very small one-time projects where we have the lowest tier of 2,000 per month, all the way till about $10,000 to $12,000 within enterprise. But enterprise is no cap, and it differs, but the range is between, I would say, $8,000 to $12,000. Yeah.
By the way,
How's your
Vinitha,
cost? Yeah. Go ahead, Shishir.
Yeah, bunch of questions. I've been listening to this very intently, right? So since this is a roast, I thought might as well take the gloves off a little bit, right? Now, you're talking about trying to solve problems which has got multiple data sources, etc. The way you articulated your value chain, the way you solve the problem, does the current approach restrict you to solving a certain kind of problems? Why I'm saying is because data privacy concerns, my data going outside, it becoming part of your set of data, which you may use for a competitor tomorrow to drive something else. Or do I just go, if I'm using AC Nielsen or IRI today, I might as well use you because that's public too. So are you being restricted or pigeonholed into solving a certain types of problems?
Yes, fantastic question. The short answer is the latter, but I definitely want to expand more on that. Some of the use cases with the highest privacy, absolutely related to healthcare, HIPAA privacy policies, where we are able to use the data only to a certain extent, and not even able to. First concern, like you mentioned, Shishir, everybody has this: are you using our data at a later time for training? Are you going to use this for a different competitor, like you mentioned? The first aspect is that, very similar to what every model-based research is being done right now, first of all, we don't even have the privilege to think, oh, we're going to take the data from the users and use it for our training purposes. We never did that. Second of all, we have exclusive partnerships with certain enterprises and companies which agreed to give us their data for training our model without, without any restrictions, which allowed us to create this information and provide it to the model for fine tuning. Third is that we use a lot of synthetic data. Synthetic data plays a humongous play here from a fine tuning and model development aspect. But going back to your question, are there use cases that we currently feel like we cannot get into? That's not based on our technical capabilities, but from a market perception aspect, then it would be related to personal patient related information and HIPAA privacy policies, where we have to jump through 4 different hoops, get consent from individual patients who are allowing us to use that information. So that's really where, but in those use cases, we've always seen, or I should say, in many cases, we've sort of been able to get around that by being able to aggregate the information rather than getting super specific. We've not had a use case as of yet where they said, I want to know this about this particular person from a patient and healthcare standpoint. That's a very different game altogether. What we focus on is the insights that decision makers require purely from an execution standpoint, industry, R&D, technology, development, internal processes. So I would say about 98% we've always been able to do so far. It's definitely the last 2% that's sensitive data, cybersecurity.
Yeah, given that you are positioning it as a SaaS platform, Vinitha, you may want to keep working on that resonating with the market, because the moment you say you're SaaS, it's assumed you're going to use the data. That's just the way the market is, right? You can say whatever, you can do whatever. The moment you say you're a SaaS platform, you are working, you're monetizing the data, period.
Correct.
Right? If you do a per report model with a proper onboarding, offboarding, cleanse, purge policy, etc., you can still convince some of them. But the moment you say you're SaaS, it's assumed that you're going to use the data. That's one point. It's just something, that's the way the market works. The other thing is, so you said you're partnering with consulting firms, which is very interesting. And I can almost see the parallels between many such past experiences where somebody who's invested in the downstream brings a partner in the upstream to create the business case for the downstream, right? Now, my question to that is, McKinsey, about a decade or more back, launched something called Periscope, which has now evolved into something really awesome, right? Deloitte has launched something by domain, PwC. So this thing, what you're trying to sell with consulting is also being offered in consulting today, right? In some shape or form.
Yes.
Now, it could be a veneer of a platform when there are a bunch of analysts at the back end doing what you're doing, right? Yes. But they're still selling it like that. How do you see that as a competition or a real threat to your model? Because that is going to be something that is the obvious natural progression for consulting firms.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And as you just pointed out, we've had a very similar feedback when we've approached a few large named, consulting firms where they've said, you look like a competition and we don't know, how this would bear, right? So the most important aspect there for us is definitely targeting the low-hanging fruits. And we did not get that feedback from the 4 different large consulting firms we approached. We did not get that from every single firm. There were firms which were extremely open to, first of all, analyzing how superior the technology is. Because at the end of the day, we are shaping this and we are projecting this as a win-win-win situation for everybody here. We are never trying to say that we are going to take care of all the different requirements that you are directly interfacing with the clients. We are going to sit in with the meetings, all the operational aspects and execution aspects they do. We do not want to get into that aspect at all. With channel partners, the biggest, consulting firms especially, the biggest part that is of value to them is integrating our insight-based agents into their whole workflow, where they're able to create extremely quick reports within a matter of a couple days, which has now taken them anywhere between a week to 2 weeks. And one successful firm that we do work with from this perspective is marketing firms. And they're a great example of being able to adopt all of the different insights that they have to provide the customers in the initial phase, use our pipeline to get there, and then bring theirs into picture. Because if we ever go and speak with any consulting firm who thinks that we are trying to completely replace their process, which we never are, we're definitely going to get a no from them.
But you're
That's-
making them look less smart. So
Yeah.
you are competing with them, right? So you are, I mean, I'm just say because we've done
It'll
this
be more
in
of
my past.
augmenting.
Yeah,
Shishir, it'll be more of augmenting them because
you're right. But
some of the
if
pieces that they
fine-
are doing more manually, they would want. I mean, and again, I don't know, Vinitha, if and it's a roast, and hence I'll say that.
Yes.
I don't know if it's really an AI or an LLM doing it, or you have 10,000 people sitting in, or interns sitting in and then doing it. I don't know about that piece,
True.
but
Yes.
that's I need to drop off, but thanks, Pankaj, for bringing us all in. Two questions, Vinitha, for you. For maybe you don't need to answer, but something for you to think: is your cost of operating going down per report type of a thing, or is that going up? Because that's a question that'll deter, obviously, because some of the technological costs, and again, assuming it's not the interns who are doing it, it's really the LLMs which are going in, your GPU power will go up, and hence that aspect. How are you bringing it from a validation perspective on an ongoing basis, from a use case to use case piece, a part of it, because that's critical. And then how are you? You're offering it as a SaaS model, but are you hosting it in the client's environment so that they can able to? Because to Shishir's point, if it's a SaaS, I am wary of sending in my research proprietary data that can then be used in the same category by somebody else. Why will you not sell to Pepsi and to Coke and saying, hey, the black magic formula, I have it now? So three questions, something for you to think about. At a great session. Would love to connect with you later on. Thanks, Pankaj, for organizing it, and thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Imran. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Should we conclude? I was also stretching my time a little bit, Pankaj.
Yeah, I mean, if you have more questions, we would love to take them. But
I just had one on GTM specifically around your. I'm just very curious. I'm just trying to play out these conversations because I have personally sold to your persona too.
Okay.
And what you're telling them is that the BI teams and the reporting teams you've set up are no longer required, which make the person seem important in the organization, and I'll do it myself. So who should you be selling this to? Right? The guy who's being made irrelevant or less powerful because you're shrinking their domain. Or, I mean, that was a very first question that I came, because these people over the years have amassed large data science teams. They started as reporting back offices, then they became BI teams, then they became data science teams, and now you're saying I don't need you at all, just focus on the decisions. So you're really challenging the entire promotion cycle of that individual, right? So I'm just wondering about that.
No, I will directly tell you, I learned this the hardest way. Any introductory sales call that I've ever been in so far, which also had the BI analysts and everybody who contribute to different parts of being able to gather these insights, we've actually hit a wall. We've not even gone one step beyond that. And that was initially I mean, even though we never positioned ourselves, I think it's becoming increasingly they're becoming increasingly wary of the long-term impact of what this is going to cost to the team. So I think when it comes to positioning ourselves, we of course directly reach the P&L owners, right? We stopped completely trying to even reach anybody below that chain. And even to them, the biggest aspect we'd like to emphasize and provide is that we don't want this to become a step that you're doing extra than what you're doing right now. If there are step 1 to step 7 that you're following right now, we would of course come into this picture and replace, say, step 2 and 3, which does not necessarily have to be cutting off the members and the work they do. Because honestly, Shishir, at the end of the day, from the way that our agents work, I would love to show the demo to you at a later time. we need the members to provide the objectives and goals and the documents that are relevant. And I'm damn sure it's not the P&L owners who are sitting and directly interacting with them. So it will come down to, who is directly interacting with the platform. And we do face that challenge, right? Even until today. And we've tried staying away from the personas who will have the biggest resistance to, but that's a ongoing learning for us. I'm not going to say we've figured that out as of yet. Yes.
Yeah, good. All the best. I think we'll continue the
Thank
chat
you.
some other time, but pleasure being on the panel. Pankaj, the whole
Absolutely.
team, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you
Thanks
so
a lot,
much.
Shishir.
It was fantastic having you. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you,
Thank you
Sanjeev
very
and
much.
Suvajit. Really appreciate it. And thanks a lot, Vinitha. I think you did a fantastic job. You did not get roasted. I think the feedback was pretty positive, right? So
Yeah, that is the
that's good. And you're
sweetest
still
roast
smiling.
session. But no, I would love to connect with all of them, Pankaj. Thank you so much for helping me do this. It was super fascinating and extremely exciting. Yes.
Yep. Thanks everybody on the panel, and we'll reconnect soon. Yeah, take care. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Stay safe.
you.
Bye.
Bye.